What's up, Wizards? Dev. What's going on? Mtg, you know by now all that stuff. We like it at Magic, and today, different content for you. Something actually really different from what I usually do. You know, a couple of weeks ago, I tweeted out that I was thinking about getting a bunch of cards from the dark just because they make me really happy, like, you know, low budget stuff for the most part. And that's what's happened. You know, I had a couple of people tell me on Twitter, like, make sure you keep us up to date on what you get and when you get it and blah, blah. And yeah, I probably just could have posted this on Twitter. You know, a few pictures of what I got, but I'm really excited about it. And, you know, I thought this might be a fun chance to, like, get on camera, talk about these cards, and just make a video out of it and stuff. And it's more for my personal enjoyment, but if you get some enjoyment out of it, checking out some old cards, hearing me talk about them, all that, then good on you. So, you know, whatever. Basically, what I've decided to do is I've allowed myself $25 a month to spend on TCG Player on, like, old cards, and it comes out of my TCG Player check. So, like, if you're a patron or something like that, then don't worry. Your money's not going to me buying old cards and speculating on TCG Player, specifically from the TCG Player check. So, what I've just done is I've given myself an allowance of $25 and just, like, see what I can get for this money. And some of it's speculation, and some of it's, like, a lot of it really is just like, oh, I used to have, you know, some old cards back in the day, and I really miss them, and I've sold, like, my whole collection, like, 3 or 4 times in my Magic career, and I really regret doing it, like, every time I do it. Like, the next day I regret doing it. So some of this is just replacing, like, old cards that I had. And then some of it is speculation and, like, buying cards that I always wanted to have when I was a kid. So, like, you see the giant shark here. It's obviously not speculation. You're like, what, are you speculating on giant shark, Dev? No, I just always thought it was, like, super cool when I was a kid. It's, like, the only card I didn't sleeve up that I got from this order. Because giant shark really looks awesome, but it's only, like, 10 cents. So, like, who cares at all? It's just an awesome-looking card. I don't know, man. I know that it's not going to jump in value anytime soon, and neither is Ghost Ship. But again, like, just like Giant Shark, how freaking cool is this card? And this thing was actually a scourge back in the day. My buddy played 4 Ghost Ships in his blue-black deck, and this is actually a very serious card. Once it comes down, if they have the mana to regenerate it, then it's just really, really difficult to deal with. And I know that it doesn't look like much, but, like, back in the day, creatures were terrible. So, like, a flying guy that regenerates is actually kind of crazy, and this was an important card for a long time. Its price doesn't really reflect that, obviously. You know, it's just a crap, like, common or uncommon from the dark. It doesn't hold much value, but look how awesome the art is. It's one of my favorite things about the dark, is just, like, how the mood is so perfectly, you know, fit. It's just like the entire set is devoted to, like, gothic horror and these dark themes, and it just looks so cool in every way. Like, who doesn't like the Flying Dutchman? So you gotta have a Ghost Ship. Like I said, most of these cards are just, like, crap that I thought was cool when I was, like, 11 or 12, and now I'm going back and just, like, getting the nostalgia trip in full. Like, how can I replace these old cards, or, like, get cards my friends had that I always wanted? And it turns out you can just get these for, like, 15 cents. You know, they haven't jumped in value that much. Another one is Wand of Ith. You can read that if you want to. Actually, I don't know if you can read that. The text is really tiny and there's a lot of it. But it's kind of a crap card, actually. It's just like, you know, you pay a lot of mana. It's a 3, and I had to check. You pay a lot of mana. It's like 3 and tap it. You look at your opponent's hand or something, and, like, if, you know, they have a land or something, then they have to either discard it or pay 1 life. You know, and if they have, like, a normal non-land card, they either have to discard it or pay life as well. Like, it's not a good card at all, but I love Quentin Hoover artwork. Like, I love it so much, and I wish that, you know, he's still around doing stuff for MTG. Maybe he does and I just don't notice it or something, but back in the 90s, his art had this very distinct style, and they used him a lot. They used a lot of the same, you know, 12 artists for a lot of their work, but you can really tell Quentin Hoover the moment you see it. It jumps out at you. That's just so gorgeous, you guys. Like, I don't care if it's only like 25 cents. It's beautiful. But here's Barrel's Cage. You guys might remember this from the top 20 EDH cards video. This is number 20. Started off the list. It's not a great card or anything, but it's like $1.25, which means it's appreciated a little bit in value. A lot of these cards haven't from the 90s, but Barrel's Cage was always, like, kind of a crap card when I was growing up, but Commander makes it a decent format for decks that, like, or, you know, Commander's a decent format for this card, insofar as there are decks that are, like, blue and green and don't have a lot of removal options. So I thought it might be cool to pick up a Barrel's Cage. I used to make fun of this card back in the day, but it turns out, you know, it's not so bad given the right format. That's true of a lot of cards. Now this, you guys, the old Merfolk Assassin War Barge combination. In case you didn't see the top 20 EDH cards in the dark video, this made so many people mad back in the day. You could actually assemble this combo. You can just use Barge to give creatures Island Walk and then Assassin to kill those creatures. So you just have a creature that says tap, destroy target creature. And that sounds good now. So imagine how good it was back in the day when, like, again, creatures weren't very good. You know, Magic was known more for its powerful spells and artifacts way back in the day. And as time goes on, you hear what people call power creep. It's really just the creatures getting better and the spells getting worse. And that's definitely has been the case. Now, Fountain of Youth. All right, this next card. This is something that you will see, especially in a lot of like old timers EDH decks. And I almost covered this card and like 2 of the other 0-cost artifacts in that dark video, but I didn't actually cut that part because it was like 5 minutes long. The video was already super long. So just wanted to give Fountain of Youth its due here. It's not a good card, but if you're looking for like 0-cost artifacts in an all artifact EDH deck and you actually want your 0-cost artifacts to, like, I don't know, do something, then Fountain of Youth is actually a pretty good pick. So I picked it up just for, you know, maybe in hopes of like assembling an all old timer EDH deck with like no $100 cards. I know it's really, really hard, but it's a possibility. So we're going to make it happen. Here's Sunken City. This was also in the video. I am always surprised that this card doesn't do anything. It's like 15, 20 cents, and it always has been. And it was reprinted a couple of times. I think it was reprinted in like 4th edition. But it's just like, it gets absolutely no play. Like, no one cares about this card, but it's just, you know, a blue Bad Moon or a blue Crusade, you know, an Anthem effect for all your blue guys is actually really good. And I brought this up in the video, but like, if you wanted to play this in like Thassa EDH, it would actually be a good call. I mean, you just don't have a whole lot of mono blue Anthem effects, right? So yeah, Sunken City, I've always thought it got a bad rap. And specifically the dark version just always looked really, really good to me. Like, blue cards from the dark are delicious, you guys. Like, this shade of blue that they used is just like unbelievable. Like, I don't know what it is that I like about it so much, but that looks good to me. But anyway, here's Reflecting Mirror. You guys check out this new CD that I got. It's really good. It's death metal. That's a death metal CD, obviously. Despite the jokes you can make about the art, like, I brought this up in that video too because, like, I never thought that it was any good back in the day. You know, it's an overcosted artifact with an overcosted activation. But at the same time, again, in EDH, now that we have a format like that, you know, you got to remember, when I was growing up, we just didn't have Commander. Like, most games that we played were sort of like Commander. With like 4 people sitting at a table with like 80 card decks because we didn't know any better. You know, and we only have 1 of each card anyway. We don't own multiples of things. We're poor. So, like, in a way, we were, hey, Waverly, get off the table. we were playing EDH back in the day without even realizing it. But it turns out that in an actual fleshed out Commander format, Reflecting Mirror ain't half bad. This is another card that just like looks really, really good to me. So, despite the jokes, I just think that like old artifacts too, especially like artifacts from this time period, are just so awesome looking. But aside from that, we also got Ragman. Actually, these next 2 cards are like 2 of my favorite black cards ever. Just because, again, they're just like creepy. Like, now we see these like in your face, like vampire with blood dripping from its fangs. Like, it's so in your face. It's comical kind of gothic stuff in black. But back in the day, like, they still had like urban legends to pull from, you know, and just like there was an overall level of creepy to the cards. Like, the dark is already a creepy set just by design. So the black cards are like overly creepy in a lot of ways. Like, Ragman is so cool, and like the ability is, I guess, okay by like older standards. It costs $1 million to activate, but you might be able to just get your opponent to discard creatures, which back in the day was pretty good when we all played with like Shivan Dragons, Sarah Angels, you know, 5 and 6 mana creatures in every deck. So Ragman wasn't so bad, and he just looks so cool. Like, again, I really like the creepy mood that a card like this evokes. And Uncle Isvan, this is one of my favorite cards of all time, you guys. It doesn't do much, just all damage dealt to it by creatures reduced to 0. So it blocks like crazy, and it even attacks well when you get a bunch of auras on it. You don't care if it gets blocked or whatever. So like the card had its reasons for existing. Like, I actually did play against this card a bunch of times, and I played with this card. Like, it wasn't just a crappy card that looked cool, but doesn't it look awesome? Like, old bearded forest hobo with a bloody axe. That is some of the best like artwork ever. To me, at least. Again, I just feel like these old black cards are like super creepy in the right way, as opposed to like in your face, you know, pop gothic themes. They actually like made things, there's an undercurrent of creepy and stuff. So I don't know. I love Uncle Is Fun. I will always love Uncle Is Fun. But now we're getting into actually some kind of better stuff, I guess. Like Orc General isn't insane or anything, but this was the first card on the list that cost more than like 20 cents. This is like 50 cents for an Orc General. And I guess if they ever bring back Orcs in any capacity, it's possible this card spikes, but it's like super doubtful. But this is still at least somewhat playable in exactly the right EDH deck, because there are some Orcs in Magic right now. But I just like pretty much anything like this. Like, even though I'll probably never play this in a deck ever unless Orcs are actually a thing at some point, which is super doubtful. I imagine they'll just keep doing goblins and they'll just cut Orcs as a creature type altogether, like they've already done. But in any case, it's just a sweet card, which is why I ordered a lot of these, like, 10 to 15 or 50 cents, like commons and uncommons from the dark, is I just think they're super cool. Again, like just like that shade of blue, I love this sort of subdued shade of red that they used on these dark cards. But oh boy, we're getting to an infamous one, guys. We're getting to an infamous one. Here's Sara's Path, in case you've never seen this. This had a reputation as being the worst Magic card of all time for a really long time too. And as a matter of fact, it actually like held some value for that reason. It's so bad that it's got a level of fame, and so people actually wanted to buy this card for a long time. This is another one that looks cool. Like, I mean, I keep saying this about like every border for the dark, but lands, you guys, like lands are the best looking cards in the dark. And even if this card is terrible, and the art is actually kind of hokey on it, if you really want to like take a real look at the art, it's still just a good looking card. And even though it's functionally like pretty terrible, it only works in like very specific combat situations that you won't find yourself in like super awesome or super often is the word I was looking for. But just for the fact that this card was considered the bad card, like the bad card of bad cards, I had to pick it up. It was like $3. So it's one of the more expensive cards I actually picked up, but I ended up getting like 22 cards for $25 here in this order. So I'm not too mad about it. But as we move through here, you'll see like more expensive stuff, like this super dope Antiquities ATOG, you guys. Like this, I think was about $3 too, but so worth it. I've actually never in my life owned an Antiquities ATOG. Like all my ATOGs have been from Chronicles or something, or like 5th edition maybe. So, I've played with ATOG like a million times, but I've never had a super slick Antiquities one that is near mint, and it's so gorgeous, you guys. Like that I got specifically for EDH purposes. Like I've got to play that in an EDH deck. But aside from that, we've also got a Leviathan. This is a dope card, even though like it's bad. Like that's the thing about like all these Krakens and Leviathans from back in the day. Polar Kraken from Ice Age, Leviathan, Island Fish, and a couple of other like giant fish creatures back in the day are actually kind of bad. Like this was the biggest creature in Magic history at the time of printing, and was for a good little time afterwards. But like it's kind of crap. Like you get it out and you can actually attack with it, and you'll take over the game and you'll win in a couple of attack steps because it has the trample and everything. But it's still like got serious restrictions on it. It hurts its caster and its controller like an awful lot, and it's just like fairly bad. And it cost a babillion mana to cast it in the first place. So like Leviathan's like bad by current standards, but this thing was like a real fear button back in the day. If the opponent actually resolved a Leviathan, and it wasn't unheard of, then like you had to do something then and there, or you're just dead. You're just more or less dead. And it's just, I don't know. For some reason, I've always loved the concept, like in mythology, of a giant like fish. I don't know why. It's just something I've always sort of been attracted to in any sort of lore or mythology. I just love the idea of like a giant effing island-sized fish, it's like a world-ending fish. So I've just always thought Leviathan was awesome. I love the artwork, the sense of scale on it and everything. And again, blue cards from the dark just look beautiful no matter what. So there's Leviathan. Now here's another land, Safe Haven. I talked about this one in the dark video too, because I love this card so much. It just saves your creatures from spot removal. Or you can put a bunch of like creatures with enter the battlefield triggers under it, and then pop it and get all those ETB triggers back all at one time during an upkeep. So there's just cool EDH stuff about this card, but it's also awesome. Again, I like lands from the dark, and no, I didn't pick up a Maze of Ith this time or anything, but you can pick one up for like 15 bucks moderately played. So I think that might be part of my next order. But as far as Lands from the Dark go, it's like City of Shadows and Maze of Ith. But then you got your Safe Havens and your Sara's Path. So I went with those first just because they're awesome looking. And this one, at least, unlike Sara's Path, actually serves some sort of function. And just as part of the mana base. You know, it doesn't produce mana, but it's kind of a free spell in some ways. So I've always liked Safe Haven. But here is Skull of Orm. I told you in that Dark video, this is my favorite card from this set, like, period. Just because I have a lot of, like, it has nostalgic value to me, like, huge nostalgic value. Loved this card back in the day. Didn't even care about the text on it. Just loved the art and the idea of it. I don't know, like when I was growing up playing Magic, I loved the idea of, like, ancient relics, you know, like artifacts that hold this, like, but you know, power. And Skull of Orm was just like the one I was most attracted to when I first started playing the game. So even though like the activated ability cost a billion to activate, I don't care. You know, this could still go in like enchantment based EDH decks and stuff. And I don't know, like when I was like 11 or 12, something like 95, 96, I traded like a bunch of cards for a Skull of Orm, and my friend probably like totally grifted me on that deal, but I was just so insanely happy to have a Skull of Orm. For some reason, I don't know why, I just was. It was like the first card from the Dark I ever saw, the first card from the Dark I ever owned, so it's just got a lot of value to me specifically on a personal level. And even though the card's not good, it's just, Skull of Orm takes me back. It's like, this is why I do this. This is one of the things that like led me to where I am and what I'm doing in life right now. Thanks Skull of Orm for that, if you're a subscriber. But anyway, here's Stone Calendar. This is one of the most expensive cards in the order, mostly because there was a buyout on it a couple of years back. Matter of fact, let's open up the old Inquest. A lot of you haven't seen one of these in a good long time. This is the Inquest from when Invasion came out, and I've actually considered just covering this magazine, like this magazine, in a video, and just opening up and like going through all the articles and seeing like this is what Magic was like in 2001. But let's anyway, let's look at Stone Calendar here in the Dark. Let's see here. Stone Calendar was, okay, I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's like around my thumb here. Can you hold on? Let me make sure I'm looking at the camera. Yeah, there it is. But Stone Calendar was like $3 back in the day, and it's one of the only cards that has like really appreciated from back then. So I think this was like $8.50, something like that, for a moderately played. Wait, really? I love you, but you gotta go. Sorry, baby. But anyway, Stone Calendar is really decent in EDH, actually. It's one of the reasons there was a buyout on this card, I think, is because it's a lot better in EDH play than it ever was in just sort of normal casual play where most people play the card. But the ability is really good, so I can see why people bought it out, and I really like the art on this one too, you guys. I freaking love Amy Weber art. It always looks like really conceptual, and you can never tell what's going on, and it kind of all looks like clockwork, but I really like that about it. There's just something about this kind of art, Amy Weber art, just like it gives you that feel of like classic fantasy art before the sort of like turnover into realism in the early 90s, and I just love the feeling this card invokes and sort of the color palette on it. And yeah, it's not, you know, terrible either that it actually appreciated in value, unlike a lot of these cards, and will hopefully continue to do that as the years goes on. You know, again, I'm not doing much actual speculation here, but I would like it if a couple of these cards appreciated in value as like ultra long-term investments. So Stone Calendar may do that, or it may come down because it was actually part of a buyout. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But you may have gotten a sneak peek of this. This is just a moderately played unlimited edition Fireball, which is only going to be cool to some people. But it's really, really cool to me. And of all the cards that I bought, I actually think this might have the highest chance of really appreciating. You know, I think one of the next sets to go through a huge blow up is probably going to be unlimited editions. But you know, just like other YouTubers might tell you, I'm not a financial expert. I don't do that part of this game for a living or anything. So I don't know what to tell you as far as that goes, and I don't know how like trustable my opinion on it is. But you know, we've already seen these huge blow ups in prices on alpha and beta edition, and I feel like 10 years from now unlimited is going to be where beta is now. But again, that may or may not be true. We'll have to wait and see, but I just love having an unlimited edition Fireball. It looks really, really cool. This was like $3, whereas if you want a beta one, it's like $1 million. So I think I made a decent decision here. But oh, it's Lulu Wu. In case you've never seen this card or you don't know the lore behind it, it's actually really cool. Richard Garfield's wife, I believe, is Lulu Wu is her name. And so this is just an anagram of her name, Lulu Wu. So I've always liked the card for that reason, but it's also got a wolf and a moon on it. In case you've been following the channel, you know that two of my favorite things are wolves and moons, and it's hard for me to explain why I like those things. Actually, when my dad was in a biker game, his name was Wolf, which is awesome. So I've always like associated with that name to an extent, and I like wolves as a result. But the card itself actually isn't great. You just tap it to give a guy +1/+1 till end of turn, so it's not insane or anything. It's just a 1/1 for 2 mana. But back in the day, this actually saw a fair amount of play in sort of mono green aggro or mid-range decks from that time period. So it is a card that had some competitive importance for a time, and so it has lived on in some Magic players' memories. Plus, the art's really cool, and the story behind the name is awesome too. So I'm glad to have a Lulu Wolf. This is actually the only card from Arabian Nights I ordered, because most things from Arabian Nights are also kind of undergoing this spike, either currently or in the last few months. So Arabian Nights is going up, and I was really glad to get, even though it's moderately played. You're not supposed to do that. I kind of don't care. So I was really glad to get this. But next up is Tania's Song, or Tatiana's Song, if you want to go by 2019 terms. But this is basically just all artifacts lose their abilities and become creatures equal to their, with power and toughness equal to their CMC. And this saw a ton of play back in the day. One of the biggest things you do with this is you play the Winter Orb Icy Manipulator deck. Winter Orb is they only get to untap one land during their untap step, and you just use Icy Manipulator to tap down whatever land they untap during their upkeep. So that was a stupid deck to play against. And it played a bunch of artifacts outside of just Winter Orb and Icy. So later on in the game, when you have things established, you have control established, you just drop Tatiana's Song and kill them then. You just kill them right then and there before they get to untap, because your Winter Orb doesn't work anymore. Tatiana's Song was like the win condition of that deck and a bunch of other decks. Just a fairly played like EDH card too. Excuse me. And this is one of the only cards too that is appreciated in value. I think if you look at this Inquest, it's like $3 in 2001. So in the last 18 years, this card has appreciated 100% because I got it for like $6. So hold it for another 20 years, and maybe it'll be worth $9. Be happy about that. But it just looks so good. It looks so outrageously good. And like, again, I've had Tatiana's Songs, but I think they're from like Chronicles or 4th edition. It's hard to remember. I think this was from Chronicles, but I can't remember now. But that is just absolutely beautiful art, and the shade of green is gorgeous, and I just love how old cards look, and I've communicated that enough in this video. But anyway, I think we've made it to the end here. The last and most, actually second most expensive card that I ordered was this Original Legends Pendlehaven. And Pendlehaven has been reprinted over and over, and it was actually just an uncommon when it first got printed in Legends. So this card actually is not that expensive. This is appreciated, I think, more than any other card, though, because I got this for $8.50 for moderately played. And that actually, it sounds pretty good, right? There was a point where I remember Pendlehaven being an expensive card, but it's been reprinted out the butthole. But that said, back in the day, it was like $3. Just check this Inquest before I came on camera, and Pendlehaven too was like $3. So it being $8.50 for a moderately played version, it's actually gone up in price a lot, even given all of its reprints and stuff. And the fact that it has so many reprints might keep it from going up in the future. And I think it has a couple of versions that are actually more desirable even than the Legends one. There's like a Judge's promo or foil promos in one way or another that are way more expensive than this version, but I still really like having an Original Legends Pendlehaven. This is something else I never had and always wanted back in the day. There's just like an always one of inclusion in every single green deck, period, because it's basically a forest, but better. You can make your Lawnmower Elves a 2/3 with this. So I really, really like Pendlehaven. Love the art. Love lands from back in the day, but I especially love anything from like Legends or the Dark Antiquities, Arabian Nights, all that stuff. And it's just so beautiful, and I've never owned this card my entire life. So really happy to have it now. Again, that was the intention with some of these. Just like, oh, I've never had these cards, and I always wanted them when I was like 11. And now it turns out you can just spend like $25 and get like all of these cards. Like I think the rule I'm going to give myself is that like I can bank a month. Like if I don't want to spend $25 in one month, I can spend $50 the next month, and so forth and so on. So there will be like better cards if I keep doing this as sort of a once a month video series. At some point there will be better cards, but I was a little impressed to be trying to be humble here. But I was a little impressed by like how much old stuff I was able to get for 25 bucks. Even though a lot of it's garbage and it won't appreciate, it still has a lot of sentimental value. You know, getting the War Barge Merfolk Assassin combo, this Tatiana Song by Lulu Wu, you know, Unlimited Fireball, Stone Calendar, Skull of Orm, you know, Pendlehaven. There's just so much old school value for me in here that's just like really pushes all of my nostalgia buttons. So I just had a lot of fun here making this video and looking over these cards again and talking about them and all that. So I hope you guys are still here and you enjoyed the sort of walk down memory lane. And if you want me to keep doing this whenever I order cards, just let me know. It's super fun for me. So I hope it was fun for you, and I guess that's it.